of the Dobbs Ferry Zoning Board of Appeals, and I'm Jeremy Gutman. I'm filling in tonight for Chairman Peter Hoffman, who is away. So I think the first item is we have several minutes to approve if we can. So has everybody looked them over? Does anybody have any commentary? No corrections on the ones that we were there for, I guess. Okay, so let's let me see. So actually, I think I have one correction. So April 13th, I think that was Bruce and me and Joe were there. So all in favor of approving? Okay, so the April 13th is approved. And then there's May 11th, really, I think, catching up on old ones. May 11th, 2022. So John and actually, I don't think we can vote on this one if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like only Joe and John were there for that one, and Peter,
right,
who's not here. Okay, so we'll skip that. Then July 13th, I had one note, which was that on page 30, it was out of order. The meeting, it looks like the meeting was closed and then there was a discussion. So I just wanted to, I'm pretty sure we did it the other way around. So, so if we could make that change, I think we could vote to approve that one. Okay, so July 13th is approved. And then September 14th, I think we have a quorum for that. Bruce and John and Joe and I were there. So all in favor of approving those. And October 12th, 2022, let's see, I think we don't have enough of us who were there.
right.
We need Peter.
Yeah. All right, so we did what we could with that. So on tonight's agenda, well, I think Zero Mountain Road is on the agenda, and I see Patty Steinschneider's here. Is there an update?
Just that I think we're making good progress. They've called for a public hearing at the April meeting. So I think they've got a good understanding of what the process is and where this goes. So hopefully we'll move on from there and be back to you guys and having all the real fun here with variances and things like that. So yeah, I just wanted to give you an update on it. Nothing else. If you had any questions.
No, for anybody who's listening, this was adjourned because we have requested that the planning board offer an opinion on important questions or questions that we think are important
And we do
to help us resolve the application. So you're still awaiting that, and thanks for the report.
We'll be back hopefully at next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item, I think I have this in the right order, is 11 Fairlawn Avenue. Okay, and this, what's on the application is, I believe, a request for 2 variances. There's a minimum front yard setback of 40 feet, and the proposed setback is 9 feet 2.5 inches. So there's a request for a variance of 30 30 feet, 9.5 inches. And then the second variance is a 3 foot, 4.5 inch variance to the side yard setback. Under the zoning, it's supposed to be 20 feet. So who will be heard on this?
Hello, my name is Greg Sharp. I'm an architect here in town and a builder. And I'm representing the Alchlers, who are a couple who would like to build a ground-up house at 11 Fairlawn, which is a very unique property and wonderful property. I think one of the finest raw pieces of land left in all of Westchester. So this is an existing lot that's part of the subdivision over at Fairlawn. And this particular parcel is at the end of the area where the houses are along the Riverview. So it's the third lot in a series of three that run along the river. I have some images of the neighborhood, the existing conditions of the neighborhood. I have some images showing the two adjacent houses and also showing a street view of the houses along the river that we're adjacent to. And so our belief is that our house is basically in keeping with the nature of the houses that are already built along the river in that area. Although we are building a two-story structure where the lower level is one of the levels, and so our house will be slightly lower than the adjacent structures. It is a unique property as it's somewhat of like a flag lot. I don't know if it's quite called a flag lot. It's somewhat of like a swoop lot or something. It has a bit of a section that sort of runs along the side of the road. And so one of the issues that we come up with is that people, as they come down that Fairlawn Avenue, are basically heading directly into the property at that curve. So that's one of the issues that's been sort of identified with the property. There's also various easements and various protected zones that are on the existing property. So the existing buildable lot is actually quite reduced from the actual site. It's also a relatively steep site. So we've had to make account of the hill, we've had to make account of the increased zoning requirements and restrictions based on the lot size, as well as the steepness of the property. I can, so this is a diagram that I made that sort of explains what we're talking about and also shows our house, our proposed house, in relation to the neighbor's house. So you can see that we are, the principal setback of the house is actually slightly more than the adjacent building is set back as well. One of the design features on the house, though, is that we would like to not have our garage face the street. So we'd like it so that you come around the curve and we have somewhat of a protected side of the garage, and then you pull into the lot, and then you could use the garage and use the front entrance. So we're trying to create a bit of a visual buffer as well as a physical buffer for cars that are turning around that corner. This diagram also shows the setbacks and what our proposal is. But I think this shows you, what we're talking about as far as what is considered over the existing zoning. while everything else is within the zoning, this is the issue that isn't. But I feel like it is in keeping with the other houses that are along that strip. It seems to be in similar proportion and in similar variances that were, I assume, previously issued for the adjacent buildings.
And does the property begin sloping down? Because this isn't completely clear when I drove past it. I mean, how far behind where you're proposing the house does it begin to slope downward?
Oh, it slopes down pretty much, right? Like there's just a little bit at the top that's not sloped. So I think that this this section kind of really, I know it's micro. But so there's a slight, you know, a little bit, you know, gentler right at the top, but then it does sort of slope down. And this wall that's right here is basically currently built, but we will rebuild it. But that is the line that we can't build past. But this, you know, gives a working diagram of what we're proposing. So we're basically proposing to create a bit of level front yard that we can utilize for parking and landscape and things like that to engage with the neighborhood, similar to what's engaged. And we're talking about setting the property into the hill and utilizing the lower level as well as the upper level, which in the aggregate creates a lower profile project than a lot of the other projects in the neighborhood, which would leave it open.
Quite honestly, I don't remember the zoning board passing a variance in the front yard of the other houses you referred to on Fairlawn. It might have just skipped my memory. But what are the factors that led you for this house to push the house so far towards the front, require a 30-foot variance?
I'm sorry, what are the factors that?
Why are you requesting most variances requests we've gotten,
Yeah.
like 10 feet here, it's 7 feet
Yeah.
there. You're requesting a 30-foot variance. That
Yeah.
is a significant amount of distance in the front yard.
Yeah.
What were the factors which led you to place the house in such a way that you're asking for a 30-foot variance?
Okay, so the bulk of the house is set back in sort of in relation to where the other houses are. I think the 30-foot number comes in relation to the garage portion. So as you can see from this diagram, as you're coming down the road, you're sort of going right into the face of the garage. So what we did not want to do is, you know, we didn't want to have the garage right on the face of the building, right? We wanted to create something a little more architectural, a little more nuanced. We also wanted to sort of screen that turn. So we're having the side of the garage sort of in that zone. So the idea is that it's really this element that is creating that number. But the bulk of the house is set back. It's actually set back further than the adjacent houses. I can, you know, run you through some of the plans and stuff as well, as if you would like.
So if I were to sum up what you're saying, it's the placement of the garage that's creating the request for the variance.
That's the furthest, that is the furthest number. But if you look at this lot, right, we have this swoop, this like leg, this like dog leg here, which creates a bit of a unique situation. Also being on the turn creates a bit of a unique situation. And so, you know, I feel that in this condition, you have to look at what's the, you know, right use of the property and its context of the neighborhood and what's, you know, happening with the adjacent, you know, houses and how is this appropriate for that site. And so in that, I think we've done.
But why not push it back?
Well, we can't go back any further. So we're not allowed to build past this wall.
This site is very, very steep.
Very,
It
very
drops
steep, yeah.
off very, that's why they pulled all the other houses
Yeah,
forward.
yeah.
Forward. Okay, but there's an easement, this is, where this wall is this retaining wall. I'm trying to understand where the limit of the easement is. I mean, I know it's steep, but it's, is that right? Is that what you're saying, that this area, you cannot build there because of an easement?
Yes, we can't build any further back. So we're not allowed to push the house any further back. We are pushed up to the back of this line already. And we're not building some, monster super house. We're building a house that's in context and size of the adjacent houses, actually smaller than the adjacent houses. This is a relatively tight lot or buildable site with obviously it has a good bit of land, but it is also a relatively tight site.
So you stress that one of the reasons you pushed the garage forward is a perception that it is going to be safer for traffic and for your eventual occupants, because it'll buffer them from traffic and cars. What are the negatives associated? If it was a built site, I would be able to look at it and get a better sense.
That's right. That's right. Basically,
Negatives.
exactly that is like, we don't want the garage on the face of the house. We feel that that's an architectural feature that would not be preferred. To separate that element out, we believe is preferable architecturally as well as safety-wise. I understand one of the conditions in the neighborhood is that cars tend to drive, they tend to not stop at this turn. They tend to just sort of continue straight.
I'm asking you the inverse of what you're answering. I'm asking you the opposite of what you're answering. I'm asking you, pushing the garage out.
Yeah.
What do you foresee as the negative?
Oh, as the negative.
To the community.
Okay, sorry. I have not contemplated the negatives of my design at this time. Thank you for.
Well, then I'm glad I'm asking you the question.
It's perfect. I mean, come on. Well, like I said, listen, the negatives, listen, the negatives, I don't really know what the negatives are. The negatives, I mean, I feel like I've tucked this garage back into a location on the site that it's best situated, and therefore, and that's why we did it. That's, pushing it up against the wall, being in the back, allowing the traffic to sort of be a screening element to the traffic and a buffer to the house with headlights and so on and so forth. I feel like this is the right location for it. From a zoning perspective, I understand that it's a big number, but I believe in this situation, it's somewhat of a little bit of an arbitrary number due to the fact that, all the houses along this row are equally, going over this line. So I feel like this is, if I was like the only person and I just wanted to do it, then I would understand that there was no precedent for this. But I feel like there is a precedent, and I feel like we've done the best use to take this garage and put it off to the side for a variety of reasons, architecturally as well as safety, as well as all these other items.
I mean, isn't it, just in terms of the houses right along, to your left, don't they, it seems that they don't have like the garage is more incorporated into the main structure of the house, and that this will be somewhat out of character with that, to have it as almost a freestanding building.
I mean, that's, that is an architectural sort of debate, is what's nicer. And so what is nicer architecturally? I mean, I would say just because the previous developer decided to do that was certainly not a function of it being nicer. It was certainly a function of budget, but I would say is somewhat of a, mistake on their part. But that's you know, a discussion about what's more appropriate in that, you know, situation. I mean, these are sort of the, you know, as I would say, on the more unique, but also on the higher end of properties around in Dobbs. This is a luxury property. Not to state facts, but there's a 70-some-odd million home built, you know, probably, you know, a couple blocks away from this. And so, and so I feel like, you know, to do things that are architecturally enhancing are certainly appropriate in this setting. And the garage has a function. It also has a safety function, and it also has, you know, not just an architectural function, but also a safety function for the blocking of the curves that come around. And I mean, this is something else, Dan. If you could just help me with this, is like, so if I separated the garage, right, then it would be considered an accessory building, and I could have it within 5 feet of the road, right?
Right, depending on the size of it. It could be accessory. I don't
That's
know
right.
the exact size.
That's right. So by connecting it to the house, this is my crime, is connecting it to the house. If I didn't have it connected to the house, I would be able to have it there, and I wouldn't need a zoning variance. So, you know, not to, you know, say that, you know, to have sympathy, but the fact is like, obviously they would like it connected to the house. You know, that's obviously something that we would like to do. But, you know, separating it from the house seems to not affect the design. It just seems like something that would not really necessarily be required. But
I mean, is there any modification in terms of the size of the garage that you think?
the garage is a very small garage. It's allowed as per, every house is allowed a certain amount of square footage of the garage. This is a 2-car garage. This is not a 4-car garage. It's also a 1-story garage. We were also allowed to have a 2-story garage and a room above it. So I think we're well under the requirements. If you look at the profile of this house, it's very low. We're not going to be, you know, I don't think we're going to be, you know, disrupting the sun. We're not, you know, this is relatively open. I think we've been very reasonable and responsible in our approach to this project. And I think it'll be a lovely addition. We've also, you know, spoken to the adjacent neighbors, and they all seem to be supportive as well. And so, you know, we have sort of done that process to include people to make sure that they understand what's happening there and what we would like to do.
I just wanted to say that I do have actually a comment on, not on that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, yeah, if you'd like, if there's anyone who'd like to be heard, you can step up to the microphone if you wouldn't mind, and just state your name and where you live.
Ivan Brightly, I live over at 13 Fairlawn Avenue. I don't have any particular comments on the home. The home does look to be low profile, especially in comparison to the other 2 homes nearby. I would just comment that the trees do seem to be a little bit on the larger side of things, and in the sense that, you know, the town has an interest in not blocking river views excessively. I would just ask if it would be possible to consider using some type of, you know, smaller size, lower or narrower shrubbery. You know, those trees, they look like they're approximately the same size as the house right as it stands today. They will only get bigger and wider. They won't get smaller. And I just would like to bring up that concern.
Yeah, and I'll also note, we received an email from Karen and Tom Wares at 18 Fairlawn, who couldn't be here tonight, but who expressed a similar concern.
Okay. The trees in my drawings are very representational. I would say, as an architect, I probably use the same tree on every project I've ever done. I found this CAD profile, I don't know how many decades ago, and I still use it today just because I think it looks wonderful, but has no relation to the actual landscape plan that will come. The client has retained a professional landscaper, and that person is working on an appropriate landscape plan. I have included, besides the renderings, you could see the project, the sort of overall, what the conceptual idea of the project is, and what it will look like from the river, what it will look like from the facade. It should be a very lovely modern home. Let me go back. I'm trying to find the landscaping plan.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
we do have a landscaping plan.
Excuse me.
the landscaping plan will be addressed at the planning board also. They will take a
Right.
good look at that.
Thank you. I'm sorry, you can continue.
What?
We interrupted, you were just explaining.
No, it's just the landscape, there is a landscape architect, and they are working on a landscaping plan. I have put in, just as I do on all the projects, sort of like my own preliminary landscaping plan in order to go through these committees and do that. But the client would certainly do that. I think part of their wish is also to not block people's views. I think that's their wish, is to, have a low profile house, not overbuild, just do something very appropriate, and have it so that it still opens up to the sky. And I think that's important to them.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to be heard tonight on this application? All right,
Motion to close.
Second.
all in favor?
Motion to approve the application as shown on the drawings.
Thank you so much.
We got to vote.
We haven't voted yet.
Almost
I
there.
thought that was a vote.
You're almost there.
And so.
Two are on board, you need
So sorry.
And
Take your time.
could we modify that to make it clear, we are not approving the landscaping tonight based on these drawings? That will come before the planning board as Mr.
Absolutely.
To be more specific, we're motion to approve the two variances being sought by the applicant.
Can I just make a comment?
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually super sensitive about oversized houses. I got a couple of them near me, and and so in this particular case, in this particular site, I think it's justified. And I don't think it's a major change to the nature of the neighborhood. I think that the fact that he's kept it one story at the street level is a very, very big move where our neighbors haven't. He hasn't pulled it out. I'm sensitive to the idea of an accessory structure. So because we are layering a little more information into our resolutions, it just is worthwhile just to say a comment about it, because I would probably be more likely to say no to this, and just on the level of precedent. But in this case, I feel that it fits in. You made a number of good moves, I think, that help mitigate that. I think it's just trying to make the house bigger, to be honest with you, but in this case, I think it's justifiable, and I don't think the neighborhood is a bunch of small houses. There's a lot of really large houses, actually, so. And all the neighbors had an opportunity to come here and say, this house is too big, this house is too tall, and none of them showed up, so, in any case. So I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to comment.
Good answer.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yep.
And I must say, some of your answers very ably address objections that I might have raised, and I do think that it's a well thought out plan, and it's it'll be a nice contribution to that street, the neighborhood.
Thank you.
So we do have to vote. All in favor of the resolution? All right, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
If we're different, we would have voted the other way.
I think you're probably right. I think that's true. I'm always worried about.
So the next item is 99 Oliphant Avenue.
Yeah, I know. I think, I'm surprised that somehow the other ones didn't
because maybe the house at 30 feet back was sufficiently back with a garage.
Yeah.
The garage is causing this problem.
Yeah, but they're all encroaching on, still encroaching on. If you look at it, they'll still be encroaching.
So this is an application for 3 variances, a 1% variation for the maximum impervious coverage, a 3-foot variance for the rear yard setback, and a 3-foot variance for a side yard setback. And who's going to be heard on this application?
Christina Griffin. Good evening. I'm Principal CGA Studio Architects. I'm here with Suzanne Levine, the project architect. And we're going to show you the drawings in a minute. I'm just going to get set up here. Okay. I think we should go to the next page. We're asking for 3 very small variances.
No 30 feet?
Yes, and this is our site plan. We are planning to do 2 small 1-story extensions, and one is at the rear of the property, which is 65 square feet. This extension has a setback of 37 feet. Required is 40 feet. But actually, the house already has a non-conforming rear yard of 37.4, or 37.7, yes. So this is just extending that non-conformity slightly. We're also planning to do an extension on the north side of the house, and this is 36 square feet. And you can see just the corner of this addition goes into the setback. 12 feet is required. 9 feet is what we're asking for, variance of 3 feet. But I want to point out the existing house has a side yard of only 8.5 feet. This house, like a lot of houses on the street, are set back on the property. And I believe that's because there's space for these long, steep driveways up to a parking spot. It's very typical of a few of these houses on Oliphant. And this takes up a lot of space, and the house is located towards the back and is already non-conforming. The third variance we're asking for is impervious surfaces. And that is also a small change. And I believe that it's already non-conforming, and we're adding only just 1% more. Next slide, please. These are our zoning calculations showing the allowable coverage is 30%, impervious coverage, existing is 36, proposed is 37, 1% more. The rear yard required is 40 feet, existing 37.7, proposed is 37, side yard 12 feet, required 8.5 existing, 9 feet is what we're going to have to the addition on the north side. These are photographs of the house. The house is a 2-story Dutch colonial, and it's currently 3,312 square feet. And when we put these extensions on, it'll add another 100 square feet. This is the east side of the house, and this is where we're planning to put the dining room kitchen extension. We're planning to fill in this little covered area and bumping out the dining room by 30 inches coming out this way. This is the front of the house, no change there related to the zoning variance. And this is the west side facing the street. These are just some other views of the side of the house. This is where we're planning to put the new half bath, which is 36 square feet on the north side. And this is just a view to just show you the driveway that comes up that is probably the reason why we have a non-conforming impervious surfaces on the property. We also just checked all our areas to see, these are just to see if we meet the sprinkler requirement and also our sky exposure diagram for the addition. Now, we just wanted to show you the demolition plan only so that you could see the difference between existing and proposed. There is a dining room that is small in proportion to the house and not large enough for a long table for 8 to 10 people. There is a small kitchen with in this corner, and little eating area, tiny porch, all these little spaces, kind of a butler's pantry, and a tiny closet, a tiny powder room here. What we're planning to do is to move the half bath to this addition so that it has sort of comfortable clearances, open up the kitchen, fill in this area so that we can enlarge the kitchen, have a nice open island with seating for the family, and then extend the dining room so there's enough space for a 6 to 10 person table space. This is, I think we can skip this and go right to the floor plan. This is our foundation plan showing that the addition comes out 30 inches and up to 4 feet and aligns with the existing bump out on this side. And this comes out only 4 feet and is about 9 feet long. Our floor plan just shows our new plan that will have a larger dining room area, lengthening the room so that it has it's nice and comfortable. We are expanding the kitchen by bumping this corner out so that now we can have an island with 4 seats. They have 3 children, so this will become a real family gathering area. Taken that powder room out of here so that now we have a half bath off the center hall that's really easy access for this first floor. Next plan. This is our second floor, just showing the roofs that are on. These are just 1-story extensions that need the variances. And then here are elevations. This is the east side. This is our proposed extension. Actually, the house ends here, and there's a little covered area. We're planning to fill this in to complete the symmetry of this gable. And this is a small bump out to expand the dining room. On the front of the house, you'll just see the extension to the right. Next slide. The west elevation facing the street, setback, you'll see the extension of the half bath beyond. And then this is a view of the half bath, what it will look like on the north side. All the design of these little extensions tie in with the original design of the house as much as possible, with roof configuration, type of siding, type of windows, type of muntins. Next slide. Yes, I'm sorry. We have photographs of houses in the area. Okay. These are the houses that are on Oliphant on the same side of the street. And they range from, 3-story, it's like I think a Victorian, to other Dutch colonials. This is 79 on one side of 99. This is on the other side of 99. It's almost exactly the same house and design, I think. Dutch colonial, another colonial on down the road, and then a Tudor. And on the opposite side of the street, there are 2-story houses, and some of them are Mediterranean. So there's a little bit of a variety of styles. All similar in size. Actually, this house is probably smaller than some of the houses on the street. And I think that, yes, just want to point out the letters of support We received 2 of them from the neighbors that are right on, I think one is on the north side and the other one is on the 111. So they're the neighbors probably most affected by this project.
Yeah, and those are part of the record.
Okay.
Anybody have a question? Is there anyone else, either here or on Zoom, who wants to be heard about this application? So is there a motion?
Well,
Or is there a
close the
discussion?
hearing? Motion to close the hearing?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, the hearing is closed.
I would make a motion to approve the application as presented.
Second.
Okay. Yeah, and just to put the thought on there, these seem very minimal and basically necessary to achieve the benefit that is desired and that is a reasonable thing for the owners to want to do. So,
Very
I-
de minimis.
yes. So all in favor? Okay, the application is granted.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Us and our children really appreciate it. We're very looking forward to not having to step all over you.
Yeah. And
Motion to close the meeting.
seconded, and all in favor? Aye.